Empowering Your Pathway to Financial Success. Today I have with me Dr. John F. Demartini, a human behavior specialist, author, and entrepreneur throughout the world, and Lisa Kaye, a business and financial development consultant. And I really wanted to thank you folks for being here. It's really a great time, I think, with all the different things going on throughout the different economies in the world, to talk about how do you empower your pathway to financial success. So first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, does it matter what age you start to learn and think about finances?
Well, I think that, there was a book that I was going to write many years ago for fun. It was called How to Retire at Age 32 and Get Your Kids to Work by Age 2. But didn't quite get around to doing that. But I think that we can start people educating them about fair exchange and about the principles of money and managing money as early as possible, because I think that's a gift for us to have. Can I share a story about that? I know this is
sure.
Stories are not usually wise. I went to my father when I was 9 years old, and I went to my dad and I said, "Dad, I want to earn some money." And he said, "Great. Have you mowed the yard?" I said, "Yes." "Have you edged the sidewalk?" "Yes." "Have you pulled the weeds?" "Yes." "Have you clipped the hedges?" "Yes." "Have you cleaned the garage?" "Yes." "Have you polished my shoes?" "Yes." "Have you cleaned your room?" "Yes." "Have you helped Mom in the kitchen?" "Yes." He said, "Son, there's nothing else that we need done around the house. So if you're going to earn some money, you're going to have to go to the neighbors." So I went, oh. So I went up and down the street, and I looked for things I could do based on my skills. And I found things I could do. I found yards to be mowed and things to be weeded and hedges to be clipped. And so about a week or two had gone by, and my dad saw that I had bought myself a baseball and a bat and a glove. And he said, "Well, I see you have a new baseball and glove. How did you get that?" I said, "Well, I earned it." He said, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, I went to the neighbors like you told me, and I started doing things, and I started earning money." He said, "Well, what equipment did you use?" And I said, "Well, I used equipment that's in the garage." He said, "So you basically took the equipment out of the garage and used that to earn money?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Let me explain something to you, son. There's a thing called depreciation and cost of equipment, and I have to charge you for that." So he took whatever I had earned, and he started to analyze what it was. And he says, "I have to charge you." And I owed him $7. Well, I'd already spent the money, so I had now back debt. So he started charging me for all the equipment, and he literally itemized each piece of equipment and how much it would be per yard, et cetera, et cetera. And then I realized that my profit margins were going down, and then I just got, I have to work harder and I make less. And then one day I saw a kid on a bicycle come down the street, and I asked him if he'd like to help. And little by little, I accumulated 9 kids in the neighborhood, 3 groups of 3 to assist me. I started renting out my own parents' equipment and then other neighbors' equipment at the same price. And I started having a little business when I was 9. And then my dad came to me and says, "Now, son, I'm really pleased by you now buying yourself a new bicycle. You bought yourself this and that." He said, "But I want to teach you the next level of business." And I said, "What's that?" He says, "I want you to know what it's like to be free." And I'm a little anxious because last time he started talking to me, I was losing money. He says, "I'm going to start charging you for rent, for food, for clothes, and for maintenance at the house. But I'm going to give you freedom. You now have that bicycle. You can go anywhere you want as long as you come home by 9 o'clock at night." So he taught me, and he also gave me a piggy bank, which I still to this day have in my Houston office, a piggy bank that's never been opened. He never gave me a way of opening it. I just put coins in there. And a coin collection set. He was teaching me how to save money and think long term, and he made me accountable, and he made me actually pay for things. It made me realize that you don't get something for nothing, you have to work for it. I'm very grateful for my dad today because he did that. I became an entrepreneur, I believe, because partly of that discipline that my dad gave me when I was 9. So I really don't know how young you have to be to learn that, but I believe that you can start at a very young age.
And I'm hearing a couple of things that I want you to sort of talk about. A lot of people think financial success is being able to buy everything they want. But you brought out a point, because that seemed like what you were doing, that your dad gave you a piggy bank. So what's the difference? Because some people think, I'm financially successful because I can buy whatever I want. But is that really having financial success? Or talk a little bit about...
Well, a piggy bank becomes a biggie bank if you develop the habit of savings and investing. And like I said, I still have that coin collection set from all these years. But it depends on what you're defining success is. and what financial independence is. Financial independence is where you have passive investment income exceeding your needs of active income. And that requires you to identify what your current net worth is. You take your assets, you minus your liabilities, and you find out your net worth is, and then you find out how much money do I need in order to actually live the lifestyle I want off the interest that I earn in my passive investment income. And then define what that is and determine what it is and what interest rate you can earn on your money to determine what you need to have financial independence. And that's not a nebulous thing. That's a very specific number based on a specific objective of how much you want per year based on a specific starting point. And if you have that, you can then put together a strategy on how to save the money or invest the money to lead you to that outcome. But if you don't have financial independence as an outcome, you'll be working your whole life for money. And even though you may be making all the ends meet, etc. with it, and you might define that as successful because you're getting to do all the things you want, you will not have money always working for you. You'll be working for it. And personally, I would rather have my money working for me so I can become its master than me having to work for it so I'm its slave. And I'd rather be doing that, so then if I'm doing work, I'm not having to do work. I'm doing it because I love to do it.
So it's totally a different perspective of what a lot of people, because a lot of especially teenagers think financial success is really being able to buy.
Because
And
that's what they've been taught. In the very beginning, one of the things that you brought up in the beginning is we teach our kids to make money to buy things that they want to buy, as opposed to save money, because the more money that you save, the more money that you can earn to keep accumulating. And people don't understand that the amount of money that they accumulate is directly correlated to the amount of money that they save. And it's just something that people aren't taught, that the purpose for saving money is to continue to grow your wealth.
You know, it's interesting. I stand in front of sometimes thousands of people, and I ask people. I just did a tour in Australia, and I did this. And I asked, there's 1,000 people in the audience, and I say, well, so how many of you want to be financially independent? Everybody puts a hand up. I mean, 100% of the room goes up. And I said, it's interesting. We got 100% of the people with their hands up, but what percentage of the population actually obtain financial independence? And they kind of go, well, 1 to 3%. I said, well, let's just say 2% then. So if 2%, and there's 1,000 people in here, that means 20 of you are potentially going to become financially independent here. And they kind of went, so point to the person who that's going to be. Let's make a decision who that's going to be. And we joke. The rest of you are living in a fantasy. The rest of you saying you want to be financially independent, but you actually really, in your value structure and the way you live your life and the way your life demonstrates, is you're a consumer that buys depreciable things that diminish your potential for building financial independence. So unless you have a value on actually saving and investing money and having it work for you, if you just keep having a desire to want to take your money and spend it all the time, you'll never have it work for you. If you do, financial independence is a fantasy. And many people live in a fantasy, and they live in a delusion, an unrealistic expectation, and have what I call the ABCDs of negativity towards themselves. They get angry and aggressive towards themselves. They blame and feel like they betrayed themselves. They criticize and challenge themselves. They feel almost despondent and depressed because they think, well, by now I should be financial independent, but they don't have the values, the strategies, or the discipline to actually accomplish it.
so what could be some basic steps that someone could start to educate themselves and actually accumulate and save money?
The number one thing that you can do is start saving money. And one of the most common challenges that I hear people saying in contrast to saving money is that I don't want to save money because something will come up and I'll have to use that money anyway. And they don't understand that if they put the money aside, they've always got money to pay the things that are important to pay their bills or to pay their expenses or to buy their food. And so if you put the money away and you have it set up to where you're not going to touch it at all, then when something comes up, you don't even consider that as a resource to where you can access the money. You go to the other places that you would normally go if you didn't have money to pay, your food or your bills or your rent or something like that. And so making sure that you have money that you're putting aside and you're not touching it is one of the most critical things that people can do. And so many people just aren't simply taught the value of saving money.
I always say that it's not how much you make, it's how you manage what you make. Mm-hmm. And your values determine how you manage it. And if you don't have the values on saving and investing money and structuring money, it's not going to happen. You have to have the value of doing it. And when you manage money wisely, you attract more money to manage. because money flows in the economy from those who value it least to those who value it most. And many people think, well, I value money, but what they really do is they value what it will buy. And as long as they value what it'll buy, they'll just get the money and spend it. They have to value money for the sake of it working for them. And that's where savings comes in. And it's wise to allocate monies to savings that are never to be touched. Just as Lisa just said, making sure it's never touched, and then make sure they have other allocations to money for depreciables that could go and depreciate that have to be replenished, for education purposes, vacation purposes, all the different things that they are going to need throughout their year. They need an allocation, a little, you might say a budgeted allocation for each of those topics, but they need one for savings that they never touch. Because if you start to save and you never touch it, it starts working for you. If not, you'll always be working for it. And you have to run what I call a projection. Every time you save and reward yourself by saving, you want to run a projection that if I continued that, where would that be 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now? So it gives you an incentive to think long term, not short term. Immediate gratification costs people wealth. Long-term vision makes people wealth.
So basically, even lifestyle. So sometimes looking at your lifestyle and questioning, because a lot of times people want to up their lifestyles, but they're not upping their savings or other things. So what are some of the things I can do to say, okay, what is it? You know, because a lot of people think I have this successful lifestyle, so I must be financially successful. So what are some of the things you should ask yourself?
Well, I tell people it's not wise to raise your lifestyle unless you're willing to raise your savings and taxes equal amounts, because then you've earned the right to have that lifestyle. If you can save the amount that you're willing to raise your lifestyle, you know you've got yourself in check and you're moving towards financial independence. But if you don't, you raise your lifestyle, but you don't raise your savings, you're just moving away from financial independence. And this is where most people do it. When people are fulfilled and they're living congruently with what's meaningful to them, they have a longer-term outlook. But when people are not fulfilled in their highest values and they're not inspired by their life, they are looking for immediate gratification. And when they do, they are going to consumerism and buy depreciables that give them immediate feelings of high, but a day, a week, a month later, it's lost its meaning. The key is to make sure that you're doing something that's meaningful and prioritize your expenditures. People who prioritize their money are the ones that move towards wealth. They prioritize their income with the 20% of what they do gives them 80% results, and they prioritize their outflow, their disbursements into the things that are truly most important and the ones that give them the greatest long-term financial rewards. If they do that, they're moving that direction. So I don't recommend raising your lifestyle unless you're willing to raise your savings equal amounts. That's just my rule of thumb.
And one of the things that I'm hearing you saying is to have a long event horizon. So I think a lot of people get confused with, and when they want to start, like, let's use the stock market as an example, they want to get rich quick. So what are your ideas as far as, you know, I want to start saving money? So some people go, well, I don't want to put it in the bank, but I want to start playing the market. You know, is that a good idea? And is it, you know, because people will say, I want to get rich quick, but is that really a worthwhile strategy?
No. Really simply, one of the most fundamental things you can do when you first start saving money is save it in an account that you're not going to have any volatility or any risk associated with. As a financial advisor, I had people coming to me wanting to take the down payment of their house and double it in 6 months, of course, during some of the high points of the stock market. And having the money that you make is far more important than the return that you get on your investment or on the savings, as far as I'm concerned. It creates too much volatility emotionally for people if their money is at risk, which creates too much volatility in the rest of their life as well.
You know, I just had the opportunity to, I was in Tokyo till yesterday, and on Friday night, I just did a program called Wealth Mastery, and there were hundreds of people there. And one of the attendees was a gentleman who is the largest mutual fund asset manager in Japan. And he has 121,000 people, his clients, that he manages money for. And he's got billions of dollars of assets that he manages. And we had a nice discussion. And in fact, we're going to be doing some programs together. And he very, very much promotes the idea of patience and long-term vision. Most people are interested in immediate gratification, and it costs every time. Those are the people, they're gamblers, they're punters, they're speculators, And sometimes they make it big, but very commonly and inevitably they end up losing it. The people who are patient, methodical, strategic, and have a strategy that they're going towards a financial objective, they know where they are, they know where they're going, they've got a plan of action, and they stay with it, and they don't let the emotions and the vicissitudes of the market on the outside dictate their destiny. They have a plan. I always said on The Secret, when the voice and vision on the inside is more profound than all opinions on the outside, you've mastered your life. When it comes to finances, your strategy and your plan have to be overriding the emotional vicissitudes of the people's opinions and the market fluctuations in order to get the outcome. So patience, perseverance pays.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. And you know what I like, John, is you actually said you've seen this even in the so-called non-developed countries. So could a young child actually learn, Lisa, to start saving? And how would you play with that?
Oh, absolutely. My son, as an example, has always had a fascination with money. And so, not only teaching him the value of saving money, but it actually helped him get through math classes as well, because whenever he was struggling with math, I always brought it back to, okay, so if this was money. But teaching them to save as early as possible is extremely valuable. And like I said before, teaching them the value of saving, and that you're not necessarily just saving for something that you're wanting to buy, but you're saving to create to reduce volatility in your financial life, because the more money that you have saved as a cushion, the less volatility that you'll have overall in your financial life.
Warren Buffett said that until you can manage your emotions, don't ever expect to manage money. And the 48 laws of leadership says the same thing. Until you can manage your emotions, that's the number one undermining factor to leadership. And wealth building means well-being. And our well-being occurs to the degree that we can manage ourselves. Self-governance. And when it comes to money, if you don't have a vision bigger than yourself that you target towards, you'll let your emotions run you. There are 6 things that I tell people and teach people that can assist them financially. And they're wake-up calls. They're shockers to some people, because a lot of people live in delusions about money. And the first one is for people to write down on a piece of paper 200 benefits of building a business that actually serves ever greater numbers of people. Because if you're not committed to serving people, where are you expecting to get the money? You have to be of service. You won't find one billionaire out there that's not serving large numbers of people. So writing down 200 benefits of building a business that serves ever greater numbers of people. The second thing is writing 200 benefits of actually refining that business, polishing that business, and making it more effective and efficient so it maximizes profits. Because if it's not making profits, it's not sustainable. The third one is 200 benefits of saving an ever-progressive portion of the profits. So you're making sure that you're extracting out consciously the profits. Because based on Parkinson's law, if you don't take the money out up front, it will get eroded by unexpected bills. So you have to take it and pay yourself first. The bills, the savings have to be paid first. Then 200 benefits of actually investing that money in ever greater degrees of volatility or leverage or risk, to earn the right to risk, to be able to handle bigger returns. And then the next one is the 200 benefits of amassing a vast fortune, because if you don't have a goal of creating a fortune, you won't. And last is 200 benefits of actually creating a cause that leaves a legacy, so you have something after you've accumulated it that you want to do with it beyond your life, that's contribution to the society, that may be philanthropic or charitable, but it's something that gives you such an inspiration you can make a difference. Because if you don't, and you give it back to the government, which is not wrong or right, but if you do, you may have the government do it how it's going to spend it instead of how you want to spend it for the sake of humanity. So I advise all 6 of those things to do to help build the wealth potential in your mind.
How helpful is it to get a mentor for your finances, someone that can teach you about finance?
Again, it's very important. I think it's important to have a mentor in all areas of your life, whether it's health and nutrition or finance or business or relationships, whatever it is, just somebody that you can ask questions to help guide you. Because maybe we expect our parents to be educated in all different areas, but they're not necessarily going to be educated to be able to teach us the things that we need to do. They may have an area of expertise that they can teach us in, but if finances aren't your parents'. And we don't get a whole lot of education around finance and money and savings in school. So that's one of the areas that it's very important. Financial literacy or illiteracy is a huge, huge issue I came across a little like magnet sticker thing that said poverty is a weapon of mass destruction, and I truly believe that it is. And that, people use the excuse a lot of times that, well, I don't know how to manage money, or I don't know anything about money, and that's no different to me than saying, I don't know how to read, I don't know anything about reading, and so, or, I don't know anything about nutrition. So it's our responsibility as human beings to get educated on areas that we're not educated about.
Any area of our life that we don't empower, somebody's going to overpower, and finances is one of those areas. And I think about it this way. If you hang out with somebody that has a lower value on money and has lower skills and competency in the management of money and making money, they will, when they meet you, they will consider you expensive and greedy. If you hang out with somebody that has a higher level of competency and a higher level of wealth than you, they'll look at you as cheap and generous. So the question is if you're going to hang out with people that are in lower economics, my advice is encourage them and expand them as a teacher and mentor them to expand them. Because if not, they're going to want to lower you down. If you hang out with people that have a more expanded view, you're going to stretch yourself. Once I understood that principle, I literally selectively positioned myself around people that had greater wealth than myself. Where I lived, I pushed myself and associated with that, who I hung out with, where I went, to make sure that I got around people that automatically saw, oh, go, you can do this, go for it, expand yourself, build wealth. Because if you hang out with people that have poverty as their thinking process, they're going to want to bring you down to their level. If they hang out with people that are wealthier in processes, they're going to want to bring you to their level. So I always say if you're around people that have a lesser perspective on wealth, a lesser understanding of wealth, inspire them upward and mentor under those people that have a more expanded one than yourself.
So what would you recommend to help someone build their financial literacy? Are there some books, or what would you recommend to an individual?
Books that you can read. I think what John said is one of the most critical things that you can do is ask people that know about money and wealth. And so, going to banks or financial institutions, all banks and financial institutions have financial literacy or education programs, and a lot of them have financial mentors as well. There's a banking system or a banking organization in the U.S. as an example. They have a Key for You women's program with this Key Bank, and it's all about educating women about financial literacy and about money. And so, besides just making money, educating yourself about how to manage money and how to set a budget, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that people have, is that they don't understand that having a budget is actually part of the financial literacy equation.
Well, living beyond your lifestyle.
Beyond your means, yeah.
When I first pursued it consciously, I went out and got The Richest Man in Babylon. And that's still a beautiful little book that I can encourage any human being to actually purchase. The Richest Man in Babylon, Glasson. And this book is a great story about how important it is to save. And then, of course, I then got Think and Grow Rich because I wanted to, increase my probability of being rich. And The Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill, which I think every human being could benefit by reading. And then I put together a book called How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Get to Heaven. And that was some basics on how to transform your financial starting point into something that gives you your financial independence. But I believe that if you were to go to a bookstore, if you really value it, and just start browsing the bookstore, or go on Amazon and start looking in the books and reading it, you're going to find the one that resonates with you at that moment. And I always say, if you're not filling putting your hand in the pot of glue, you're not going to have it stick with you. You've got to fill your mind with the great works of those people that have stood the test of time. And there's a vast amount of literature out there. I would just start reading. I mean, on the internet today, you can just go read anything and anything. I was reading a book on economics just yesterday, a Japanese economics, the top Japanese economics book, and reviewing that because of a meeting I had. And the glossary was an education, just the glossary, let alone the whole text, but just the glossary, just reading the glossary. You want to educate yourself. Educated people have a higher probability of achievement in the areas that they educate than people that are not educated. So if you really want to be serious about building wealth in your life, start reading about it. Start mentoring under it. start associating with people on it, and get serious and structure things.
The other thing that you can do that's really important as well is, this kind of goes back to the discussion that we had earlier about finding a service or a product that you can provide to the world, and continuing to ask how you can actually make more money and develop a higher income or generate more streams of revenue as well. Because in order to save more money, it makes sense to actually be making more money as well. So you can continue to ask yourself those questions as far as, how can I provide a greater service to make more money?
You know, I'm launching a new program that's coming up soon called Where's My Billion? And one of the exercises in there is helping people identify where their genuine wealth is now. Because everybody has a set of values, a set of priorities, a hierarchy of values that they live their life by. And whatever's highest on their value is where they store their wealth. If they have a high value on their children, then that's such precious. Those children are so precious that they would, if somebody gave them $1 million, they would not sell that child, because that's where their wealth is. Your wealth is always in the form of what you value most. But it's not going to be converted into financial wealth unless you truly value the studies and learning of financial management. So first I help people find out where their wealth is. Then I shift their value system so they can see how to convert that into cash flow and how to put that into products, services, or ideas that they could sell to actually turn it into monies that they can now work towards financial independence on. But it starts, you already have wealth, it's just not in the cash wealth. And the way to do that is to value it and convert it.
Well, this has all been really helpful, and I hope for our listeners and our viewers, they'll go out there and find their own pathway to finance. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, Dr. Demartini, and hear you speak, what would be the best way to find out what's
the fastest
coming
way to
up
go
for you?
is just to go to my website, drdemartini.com. Or if they're interested, they could go to my Facebook, because I have information on Facebook or my website, just Dr. Demartini Facebook. And best way to get in touch with me is that, or just contact 888-DeMartini.
Great. And Lisa, for yourself?
The best way to get a hold of me is through my cell phone, 206-228-6398, or my website is lisakconsulting.com.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you folks both being here, and thank you.
Thank you.